The story I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. Felix was on his way home from work that fateful day. He had a long and frustrating day, and all he wanted was just to get home, eat, and sleep in that order. As he turned into the street, he saw an old woman. She was struggling to carry up a bag. At first, he ignored her. He believed that she could handle it on her own, so he kept walking. However, as he got closer to her, the bag tipped over, and this huge watermelon fell out and started bouncing on the dirty road towards him. And simply out of reflex, he stopped the watermelon with his foot and picked it up. He handed it back to the old woman, but she snatched it from him. She didn't even bother to say thank you or anything. She simply stuffed the fruits into the bag and resumed her struggle to carry it. Felix considered walking on, but he could see the serious trouble she was having with the bag. He knew that she would never be able to carry it on her own, so he decided to help her. He was going to be a good Samaritan. And he was like, "Ma, please, let me help you carry this bag. It's heavy for you." She looked at him. She wasn't smiling at all. Then she looked around the entire street. Ironically, they were the only ones on the street at the time. At that moment, Felix had to rethink the situation because it was beginning to look as if the old woman, she wanted anyone else to help her but him. And because of this, he was considering withdrawing his offer to help. But at that very moment, she nodded and she hesitantly stepped away from the bag. She had decided to accept his help. As Felix bent down to pick up the bag, he was shocked to see that the bag was filled with watermelons. There were about a dozen of them and they were huge. He saw that was the reason she couldn't even lift it, because they were too heavy for her. There was no way she could have carried it. He began to wonder how she even got it that far in the street to begin with. Being a young man, he easily carried the bag and the old woman led him towards her house. Thankfully, her house wasn't far. She lived in a duplex by the side of the road, just a stone's throw from where Felix met her. She walked to the door and unlocked it. Then she stepped away and she held it open for Felix to step into the house and drop the bag. And without thinking much about it, he did just that. Felix stepped into the semi-dark house and dropped the bag. But just as he turned to leave, he heard the door swing shut behind him. And in the next second, he could hear the click of the lock as he was locked in. The old woman had locked him in her house. Felix was confused. He had only tried to help this woman. Why was she locking him in her house? He knocked on the door with both fists, screaming that she released him at once. Was this the price he was going to pay for being a good Samaritan? However, to his shock, the old woman told him not to even bother begging her or try anything, that there was no way he was getting out of that house. She then went on to promise him that he was going to be there until the police arrived. Police? What the hell is this woman talking about? Felix was confused. He had no idea what the hell was going on. Had he done something to offend the woman and he didn't even know about it? And it was at that moment that the old woman decided to speak up. And she said, "You're one of those boys that have been robbing the old people of this community. You pretend you want to help them, but then you end up robbing them when they take you to their home. They choose to trust you, and then you rob them blind. How can you steal from old people like us? Old people like me? What exactly do we have that you want to take from us? Well, your format is not cast. Nobody needs your fake help anymore. By the time I hand you over to the police and they deal seriously with you, you'll think twice before you approach another old woman next time." Felix was flabbergasted. He couldn't believe she actually thought he was a thief. But at that moment, so many things began to make sense for him. He began to remember how she had acted with him, how she snatched the watermelon from his hand, how she had looked around the streets before she accepted his help. At the time, she was scared and she was looking for help. But by locking him in and calling the police, she believed that she was doing the right thing in catching a criminal. By pretending to accept his help, she did what she thought was best for her, which was protecting herself. If he had indeed been a criminal, she wasn't sure of how he would react in an empty street with them all alone. At that realization, Felix fell to his knees. His heart was beating heavily in his chest. He knew in that moment that he was in a lot of trouble. Nothing he said would change the old woman's mind against him. And even at that, there was no way he could prove that he wasn't a thief, because the crime she was accusing him of was not something that happened that day. It was something that happened in the past. And even worse, he also knew how the police system worked. And he didn't trust that they would do any investigations when they finally arrived. He knew that he was going to spend the night in jail. So now, whose fault was it? Was it Felix for choosing to help a total stranger? Or was it the old woman who chose to distrust the stranger simply based on her past experiences and trauma? Or was it society always finding ways to corrupt the little trust we have in humanity? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this video, guys. See you in the next story.